Welcome to another edition of Blitz Extra here on GoSanAngelo.com. I am Quentin Martinez, the Lakeview High School beat writer. Sitting next to me is our assistant sports editor, Paul Harris, who takes care of Central. And West Texas is on lockdown by the man to my right. That's Mike Whitson. He takes care of our area stuff. Last week saw a lot of teams opening up district play, but also saw a lot of teams wrapping up district play, non-district play rather. And one of those teams was the Central Bobcats.
That's right. Yeah, Central lost 35-28 to Midland High, and I guess the thing that pops out first, that Central lost a 21-0 lead in that game, and so you can look at that as a disappointing result, but at the same time, I mean, it's a pretty encouraging showing. You got to remember Midland High beat them 49-14 last year, and this time the Bobcats had Midland High on the ropes. After Central jumped out to that 21-0 lead, Midland High comes storming back, and you know they're led by Jacoby Webster. He's a great running back. He really kind of led the charge. So Midland High scores 28 straight. They've got all the momentum, but Central, they respond, get a touchdown with about 4 minutes left in the game to tie it. Great touchdown catch by Cole Fielder. He had a big night, 10 catches, 121 yards. Real highlight, real grab with a defender all over him in the end zone. So that ties the game. Then Midland High, they get the last word. They drive down, about a minute left in the game, and score to win it 35-28. But still, you know, it's an encouraging showing for the Bobcats. And another great night by Logan Sawyer. He threw for 307 yards, had 60 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. He did throw his first interception of the year on his 129th throw of the season. So still 12 touchdowns, 1 interception. Still a good finish in non-district for the Bobcats, I'd say.
The Lakeview Chiefs went on the road, and they were in one of those weird situations where you take on a former head coach, and that's what they did when they went on over to Lampasas to take on Joey McQueen's Badgers squad. You know, Joey McQueen led the Chiefs early part of this decade when they had a chance to make the playoffs in 2003 and 2004. So kind of one of those odd situations. But Lakeview came out on that first drive, had a statement-making 70, I think it was 68, 69-yard drive, tied the score at 7 apiece. But after that, they could never stop Lampasas. Lampasas actually ran for more yards in one game than Lakeview had given up in the 4 previous games combined. That was 529 yards. The Badgers had 3 different running backs go over 100 yards. All night long, Alan Moreno, the junior quarterback for the Lakeview Chiefs, was under a lot of pressure. There were a lot of tough down and distance situations, so that played a huge role in the outcome of the game, with the exception after that opening drive of a 68-yard touchdown pass in the second quarter to John Hernandez. The Chiefs really did nothing offensively. The second half they struggled, and they only stopped Lampasas once. That was on a 4th down play. Other than that, Lampasas scored every other time they touched the ball. That wasn't ended by a half in either situation. So a tough situation. They don't want to end non-district play on that note, but they're really injured. They're playing without 2 of their best defensive players right now, Miles Wheeler and Barney Keel, so that had something to do with it. But they're going to have some time to regroup here with the bye week. But before we get to that, last week there were a lot of close games around the areas as well, Mike.
That's right. The game of the week saw Water Valley score 38 points in the second half to get past Sands 58-44. It was just an amazing game between 2 of the state's top 10 ranked teams. Zach Glass led the Wildcat offensive attack, rushing for 178 yards and 3 touchdowns and just 12 carries on the night. Water Valley has a bye this week, but next week it's a pretty interesting showdown with Rankin, the team that ended their season last year, and Rankin just happens to be ranked #1 in the state this year. In Class 1A ranks, Broughton Winters turned in another good one. Winters scored with 2 seconds left on the clock, a 12-yard strike from Riley Ripley to straight Daniel. Pushed them over the top, 34-31 in that one. And the player of the week, Creed Colson, rushed for 282 yards and 2 scores, and also returned an interception, 57 yards for another score, earning the player of the week honors. Blizzards will be looking to pull off another upset this week when they play #6 Albany, so that should be a good one as well, and Braun hosts Cross Plains. And in Class 2A, 9th-ranked Wall Hawks had an unbelievable night to open up the district against Crane with a 33-7 win. 3 different backs ran for over 130 yards. Austin Moschek, Colin McCrory, and Grant Eubank all ran over for 130 yards in that one.
the battle for player of the week every week is getting tougher and tougher. It seems like. Didn't even get a chance to mention, I think David Moore had another single-digit carry night, over 200 yards. So I mean, the battle is unbelievable. Looking forward to. As the first non-district is kind of ended up in district, get a chance to look at District 2-5A a little bit more. What are the Central Bobcats thinking about this week?
Well, they finished non-district with a 3-2 record, and I think they've got to be happy about that. The 2 losses were by combined 10 points to Cooper and Midland High, so pretty good showing for Central. They really got to be happy with that. And they tied for the best record among their district rivals through non-district with Amarillo High. Both teams went 3-2, and really that's what it looks like it's going to come down to for the district title race. Central was a runner-up last year behind Amarillo High, and you got to think that the district title game will be when Central travels to Amarillo High on October 14th. Tascosa, kind of a bit disappointing. They had some district title hopes as well, and they've kind of disappointed in their non-district slate. And then same as last year, all 3 Lubbock schools, they look like they're still playing catch-up to the rest of the district. Coronado and Lubbock High, they're both winless. Monterey went 2-3. They did have a 1-point win over Odessa High. But otherwise, it looks like Central and Amarillo High are the clear front runners heading into district.
Moving over to District 8-4A with the Lakeview Chiefs, they, like everybody else, has a week off this week, and more than anything else, the Chiefs just have to get healthy. They finally got their offensive line healthy, but they had to play last week without, like you said, Miles Wheeler, who's a running back and a safety, Barney Keel, who has various spots on offense, and he's maybe one of their leading tacklers as a linebacker. Victor Salcedo, who played last week, had 15 tackles, 47 yards rushing. He played banged up. He only ended up playing like 3 quarters, so they just have to absolutely get healthy. They haven't had Javier Perry since the first game of the season, who's their kicker, and obviously one of their stellar soccer players as well in the spring, but they've really been bitten by the injury bug. To be perfectly honest with you, they're moving into a district now. I know they wipe the slate clean, but it's a very tough district. They open up with a top 10 ranked Stephenville, and they still have 4-1 Killeen. They have 3-1 Waco Midway, and they also still have to take on Waco High, who has one of the state's best backs in Daryl Harris. So they think they can be a lot more competitive this year with the offense that they're running and with the defense, the way that they've played at times during the non-district schedule, even though they're still winless. But they know they need to get healthy if they're going to have any chance to be more competitive in this district than they were in 2010. And turning the page to some teams that actually have games this week, Mike Whitson, I know there's a lot of quality games on the schedule in West Texas this week.
That's right. The game of the week, we'll see the Alpine Bucks traveling to face the number 9 Wall Hawks. Both teams undefeated. We'll be looking to get out to an early lead in that district race. Alpine could prevent a challenge for the Hawks. They have a sophomore quarterback in Evan Moore that threw for over 300 yards against Grape Creek, or almost 300 yards against Grape Creek. Looks really solid. And the Hawks will look to kind of continue their punishing attack, looking to grab that early lead. And also, as you mentioned before, David Moore and the Mason Punchers, they'll be looking to keep their perfect district or perfect record intact as well. Traveling to Baird to face the Olney Cubs. Moore set out the season opener. He's already rushed for 583 yards on, I think, just like 38 carries, averaging over 15 yards a carry this season. So that'll be another game we'll keep our eye on. And in 6-man, number 11, Garden City, after starting out 0-2, has won 3 straight. They'll travel to Ropes, face a team that took them the distance last year, but Garden City was able to get past them on their way to the state title. The Eagles are 4-1. They're coming off big wins over Whit Harrell and Grady, so that should be an interesting one to keep our eye on.
Anything else that jumps off the page to you, Paul?
Yeah, I think a good one could be Ozona at Reagan County. Ozona's coming off a 34-7 win over McCamey. Reagan County had a 30-8 win over Irion County last week. Both teams, looking pretty solid so far, coming off good wins. I think that could be a really evenly matched game. And then another one I was looking at is, Bangs at Brady. Brady dropped their district opener last week when Ballinger got its first win, and now they've got a tough Bangs team coming to town. So that could be a tough game for the Bulldogs, but I just wouldn't be surprised if Brady responds, because they don't want to fall into an 0-2 hole in that district.
Both teams trying to fight to stay out of that 0-2 hole. It's a limited slate this week, but a lot of good games on the schedule. So, just because Central Lakeview aren't playing doesn't mean you can't get out to a good game somewhere in West Texas. So a lot of stuff to look forward to, including our game of the week just just out in Wall, you know, when you're talking about undefeated Alpine and undefeated Wall. So that's going to wrap it up for another week of the Blitz Extra here on GhostandAngelo.com. Don't forget, we have everything nailed down with our Facebook page. We also are on Twitter if you want to follow us on Blitz WTFB, as well as Saturday morning in your standard times, the Blitz section. Of course, we have everything on lockdown for you each and every week. We'll see you again next week on GhostandAngelo.com with another edition of the Blitz Extra.
Come